All right. It is 10:02 according to my computers, and I'd like to call to order the teleconference meeting of the Board of Directors of Friday, June 26, 2020. And this isn't in my script, but today is my youngest son's 50th birthday, which makes me look older than 50, right? So before we begin, please note this meeting is being recorded. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Starting with Director Arnold.
Here.
Present. Director Belforte.
Present.
Present. Director Fewer.
Present.
Present. Director Frederick.
Here.
Present. Director Garbarino.
Here.
Present. Director Grosboll.
Here.
Present. Director Hernandez.
Here.
Present. Director Hill.
Here.
Present. Director Meston.
Present.
Present. Director Moylan.
Here.
Present. Director Rabbit.
Here.
Present. Director Sears.
Here.
Present. Director Sobel.
Here.
Present. Director Yee.
Here.
Present. Second Vice President Cochran.
Here.
Present. First Vice President Theriot.
Here.
Present. And President Parr.
Yes, here.
Thank you. You have a quorum. You've checked in 100%.
Hardly.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Would you please confirm the staff on the line?
Thank you. General Manager Mulligan.
Present.
Thank you. Joe Wire, Auto Controller, are you on the line still?
Yes.
Thank you. Chief Engineer Ava Bauer-Furbush, are you on the line?
Present.
Present. Kim Manolius, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Bridge Manager Steve Miller, are you on the line?
I'm here, Amaret. Thank you.
Thank you. Bus Division Manager Mona Babauta, are you on the line?
Yes, present.
Thank you. Ferry Division Manager Jim Swindler, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. A&D Manager Kelly Hopper, are you on the line?
Present.
Thank you. And that confirms staff on the line.
Thank you very much, Amaret. As always, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. It's great that we're all here. We appreciate your continued patience as we navigate the district's business online. I'll be asking board members if they have any questions or comments on various items. And as you know, if you have questions, the Secretary will call on you accordingly. And after the discussion portion, we'll be taking the appropriate roll call vote. If you're not speaking, please mute your phones to minimize the noise on today's call. And I learned yesterday that Amaret can tell whether you're muted or not, so if you don't mute, she may do it for you. I'm telling you, she's on the Starship Enterprise. Each page of the meeting packet is numbered on the bottom right-hand corner for ease of following along. Director Moylan, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would be delighted to. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. You get
Thank
it?
you, Director. Thank you, Director Moylan. So before we begin, Madam Secretary, how many callers do we have on the line today who are speaking under public comment?
Thank you. We currently have 45 callers showing on the line.
Okay. Due to the large numbers on the line and in order to allow a maximum number of speakers, how about if we hold off on any staff responses or comments until the end of the public comment? I'd also like to request the board's indulgence to lengthen the time of public comment to 60 minutes instead of the normal 30 that we normally provide. And I'd like to ask each of the callers who remain on the line and want to speak to try to limit their comments to less than 2 minutes so we can accommodate more speakers. If that's acceptable, I'll need a motion and a second to extend our public comment period. Do I have a motion?
Also move, President Barr.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, just please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
If there's anyone opposed, please say no. All right, thank you to everyone. Madam Secretary, would you please begin public comment?
Thank you. I wanted to summarize the comments we've received to date, just to kind of give a recap. As of yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock, the Customer Service Center logged in 97 incidents that included emails, letters, and phone calls regarding the noise on the bridge. Of the 97 comments, 14 comments were specifically addressed to the board members, and those are the ones you see listed under communications and that were sent to you via email. We also received 127 comments concerning Golden Gate Transit's July bus schedule sign-up and the sign-up's financial impact. Board members were provided with an electronic copy of all those communications as well, and the summary is listed in our updated item number 13 on communications that I sent to everyone yesterday. Justine is on the line assisting us today to moderate our public comment line, so everyone please bear with us as we transition between callers. In a moment, Justine will unmute the first speaker to start the public comment period.
All right, Justine, if you would start the public comment period, I'd appreciate that. Are we preparing to introduce the speakers?
Yes, that's what she's doing on the other line.
Oh, okay.
Mute off.
I could not hear anything, so I don't know if I'm the first speaker or not. This is Kimberly Renee Gamboa.
All right, Kimberly, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Kimberly Renee Gamboa, and I'm holding one of my favorite photos of my 18-year-old son, Kyle Emerson Gamboa. He's displaying a happy, beautiful smile in his high school class picture. Kyle jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge on September 20th, 2013 at 11:45 a.m. If Kyle was alive today, he would have celebrated his 25th birthday last Wednesday, June 24th. During the 7 years since Kyle's death, significant headway has been made in the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge suicide deterrent. I know Kyle has been watching the continued progress of the suicide deterrent, along with so many survivors, families, friends, and anyone connected with suicide. I can't thank you enough in your efforts to prevent suicide on the Golden Gate Bridge. Most times, there are no words. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly Renee. Justine, do you have folks in a queue?
She does. She has folks in the queue on her line.
All right, we'll wait for her.
A comment today.
How do we know if we're...
Hearing none from this caller, you will hear mute off. That is your cue to speak this morning. Going to the next caller.
Hello, my name is Shane Weinstein. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. Let us first start with blessings to Kyle for on his birthday, June 24th. That's first and foremost. Madam Chair, point of privilege. I look forward to 3 minutes. Is there a way that I can get that extra minute? We prep down to that.
Of course. We're still going to hold to the 60-minute time limit totally. So that means that toward the end, if there are more speakers, they may not get their entire 2 minutes. But that's your call.
I'll try to rush you.
Well, say what you need to say.
Thank you,
the agenda said 3 minutes. So.
Okay.
Go ahead, Shane.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board Directors. My name is Shane Weinstein, President of the ATU, Local 1575. I represent the brave men and women that make up the Golden Gate Transit bus operators. These are the women and the men that are forced to come to work every day, that are forced into dangerous environments every day. that aren't fortunate enough to be able to work from a home office. Their office is the bus. The reason I'm addressing you all this morning is due to the fact that the Golden Gate Transit operations staff is implementing major service cuts to the July 2020 bus schedule. These cuts will have devastating effects on my operator's personal financial position. I was very alarmed to hear that after speaking with board directors that none were informed of these changes. There aren't minuscule changes that we're talking about here. This is cutting half of your commute service. Half. So knowing the board had no clue is very concerning. Let me be clear that this special July shakeup that the district is implementing is not contractual. If it's detrimental to the employee, which in this case it is very severe, the district must meet and confer with the union and bargain in good faith, which they have not. The answer I got from Molly Caven, District Council, on June 25th, and I quote, "Thank you for your proposal, and I appreciate your efforts to work this issue out with the district." Unfortunately, the district is not in a position to accept this proposal. From that point forward, the district was not willing to talk about financial relief, nor plan to get us back to our run structure or run length. Our bus operators are staring at a 15 to 20% loss in pay overnight. Furthermore, I was just informed by Deputy General Manager of Bus, Mona Babauta, that the cuts will be deeper in September. So are we talking about 25 to 30% loss in operator pay by September? When does this end? When do we look somewhere else? This financial distress is terrible in and of itself, but in an environment where a global health crisis exists, this can put people in a position where they must choose. The operators may have to choose between paying a car payment or putting food on the table. There is no relief for mortgage or car payment, utility bills, and diapers and formula. Some of these operators are low income, taking care of elderly parents or new parents themselves. Some of them are 65 years older. They can't take this type of financial hit. Now, the million-dollar question still exists. Why is it that bus operators are the only classification that are taking a pay deduction district-wide in July? I know for certain we have 150 non-represented employees district-wide, and this includes executives that make in excess of $300,000 to $400,000 annually, yet none of them are taking a deduction at all? The optics of that do not look good. Wouldn't you agree? Now, I understand that there may, and I repeat, may be more changes coming down the line for other classifications. The district and the board chair informed me of this. But that's still a big may. What I can tell you is that the operators have already taken a massive pay cut while they watch everyone around them stay status quo. I'm asking that a discussion start at the board and a motion be made regarding this massive pay cut to bus operators. This will have devastating effects on not only our pockets, but our pension plan.
Shane, could you please wrap up the
measures of cutting money? Yes, ma'am. I have two more sentences. Taking all of your savings from bus operator pockets. These are the women and men that come to work for you every day. These are the men and women scared to come to work on some days. They have issues daily with passengers because of the heightened environment we now live in, and now they're treated as unequal. I ask that we attempt to make this equal for our bus operators, which in the current plan for July, it is absolutely not. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Shane.
Do you have a public comment this morning?
Hi, my name is Maura Lewis.
No, Maura, I'm sorry, we're going in order of callers this morning. Please wait until you hear you've been unmuted. Mute off. Do you have a public comment this morning? You are hearing mute off on your line. Please begin to speak. I just want to remind everybody I'm going down a queue and you are hearing mute off. And if you are not speaking, then I am moving on to the next person in the queue. Mr. Villabana, do you have a comment? No comment.
Hello, my name's Frank Gleason. Did you just ask me to mute off?
Yes, I did.
Hi. Well, my name is Frank Gleason. I'm a residents of San Francisco. I'm a bus driver at Golden Gate Transit. I'm being impacted by this, I guess you described it as I can't even understand what you described it as. Actually, what happened is you canceled a bid that the drivers had, and the bid was going to go to September. We weren't consulted. I mean, I'm not surprised we weren't consulted, but we're going to get a huge pay cut because you need to save money, and you're doing it at the driver's expense, and I guess it's the passengers for buses expense. I'm not surprised that you're doing it because, you know, I've spoken to you guys before. I talked to you about when the general manager had manufactured a story about the pension fund and you guys paying into it. And I've also come to you guys before and talked to you about when, I guess it was the deputy general manager of transportation had the spokesperson fabricate a story about a lot of bus drivers calling in sick when they didn't. So I came to you for those two things, so I'm not surprised that we're getting cut in pay. I'm disappointed, though. I'm disappointed and I'm hurt. I'm also not surprised that your new spokesperson is saying that the bridge is singing. It's not singing. That's not singing. But, you know, you guys are really good at one thing, and that's building distrust and disharmony with your employees. And I wish that the board members would step up and, you know, take some leadership because you've got a big problem. You got people who are in your management staff who dislike employees, whether or not is it because we're union? I don't understand. But whatever it is, it's being felt. That's why you see all of those emails from all those bus drivers. And remember, I came to you and I showed you that the unanimous vote down of that horrible first MOU, I mean, the way you've been treating your bus drivers, these are your employees, and you're treating them unfairly. Your district manager for the bus is doing it. Your general manager is doing it. And I'm not surprised.
Mr. Gleason, could you wind up your comments, please?
I am winding up. Here we go. So he wanted us to pick up passengers in San Francisco because Muni didn't want to pick up passengers because they wanted to protect their employees. And he told me to file a grievance. I guess this is it. Thank you very much. I hope you guys can figure out how to keep us happy.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason.
Give us a little respect. Thanks, now. Bye-bye.
I've unmuted the next person in the queue. Do you have a comment this morning? Mr. Holden, do you have a comment this morning? Caller should have heard mute off. Do you have a comment this morning?
I just heard mute off.
Can you identify your name, please?
Sorry, my name is Maura Lewis.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I am a resident of San Francisco. I take care of my elderly mother. She is 85 and has severe Alzheimer's. With Alzheimer's comes spatial deafness. My concern is for those of us who are severely negatively impacted by the noise on the bridge. It is not something that is tolerable in any way, shape, or form. It creates sorry, I'm a little nervous, but it is causing a great deal of distress and physical pain. I have been experiencing increasing migraine headaches. My mother is increasingly confused because of the noise and not knowing where it comes from. There are several studies that show that this type of ambient noise is detrimental to everyone's health. I have forwarded those studies onto the bridge or the board. There are also studies that show that certain tones, this included, can generate or set off epileptic seizures. Now, if you do this quick math in terms of the number of people who have dementia and who are increasingly confused by ambient noise, and those who suffer from migraines, which is about 25% of the population, and those who have epilepsy, you're looking at around 20,000 people. Now, I am not...
Mrs. Lewis, could you please wind up your comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I am not unsympathetic to to people who commit suicide. I've worked on a suicide hotline myself, but
Ms. Lewis, your time is up.
people
I'm sorry.
Okay, I hope that you do something about the noise immediately.
We did hear you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Barty. So we're talking about the noise from the installation of the new sidewalk railing slats on the bridge. As previous callers and many other people have said, it is discordant noise. It warbles between tones. It's impossible to ignore. You can hear it for miles. It causes severe physiological effects in a lot of people. It's headache-inducing. It's nauseating. My question is, why was the public not told about this in advance? Why are we commenting on this after the fact? In a recent San Francisco Chronicle story, Paolo Koselich-Swartz, spokesman for the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation Department, is quoted as confirming, he said, quote, "This is a known and inevitable part of a wind retrofit project." He added that the humming or singing is indeed part of the wind retrofit. So the question is, why did the environmental impact review and environmental assessment say the opposite? Both of those submitted for public comment stated, so in the finalized environmental impact review, it said, quote, "The project would not result in a substantial permanent increase in ambient noise levels in the project vicinity above levels existing without the project." That's the exact opposite of what the spokesman just stated was known. And additionally, in the summary, the draft summary that's submitted for public comment, they stated, quote, "As part of the final EIR-EA analysis, the following environmental issues were considered, but no adverse impacts were identified. There is no detailed discussion regarding these issues." And, you know, it lists several issues that have nothing to do with it: paleontology, water runoff. One of them is noise. And then finally, in consulting and coordinating with outside agencies, the GGNRA and National Park Service specifically requested that the EIR-EA document study, quote, "visual, historic, noise, recreation, and construction impact." And again, all of this was stated that it would have no impact. So the question here is,
thank you,
did the
Mr.
agency
Barty.
commit
Could you
fraud?
please wind up your comments?
Sure. So it seems that there was a fraudulent EIR-EA submitted, and public comment was denied, again, illegally, by covering up this information, which was known
Thank you,
according
Mr.
to your
Barty. Your
spokesman.
time is up. Thank you.
Mr. Payne, do you have a comment, Mr. Payne? You've been unmuted. To the next caller in the queue. Do you have a comment this morning?
My name is Robert Stringfellow Walker. I'm a property owner in Seacliff, and I'd like to speak in support of the SEIU Drivers Union, and I'd also like to speak in support of the retrofits to address the suicides. I would like to know what the board's actions will be to alleviate the music of the bridge, and I would like to yield my time for the board to answer.
Mr. Walker, there will be a report at the end of the public comment. Thank you for your comment.
Moving on to the next caller in the queue. Number ending in 7707, do you have a comment? Should be hearing mute off. If you hear mute off on your line, that is your cue to speak this morning. Mr. Farm, do you have a comment this morning? Mr. Amaranto, do you have a comment this morning?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James, do you have a comment this morning? Do you have a comment this morning? Debbie?
Yes. Are you talking to me?
I am. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Hi, my name is Debbie Lucchese. I'm calling about the noise on the bridge. It is not singing or humming or music. It is an awful screeching. While I don't have physical problems like many of the other people who have written you, I find the screeching of the bridge akin to being tortured. I think you knew that this noise was going to happen and did nothing. So now is the time to step up. I implore you to stop the work on the current project, because once it's finished, you will say, oh, it's too late now. Stop the work, find a new design, figure out how to stop this problem, and stop the noise now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucchese.
I'm continuing to go down the queue of callers. When you hear mute off, that is your cue to speak. Mr. Kinsey, do you have a comment this morning? Mr. James, do you have a comment this morning?
Yes, good morning, board and staff members. My name is Latashiana James. That's Mrs. James, and I would like to briefly read over an email that I sent over to the board. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for confirming. Okay. My position I hold with Golden Gate is that of a bus operator. When I started working at Golden Gate June 5th, 2014, it was like a breath of fresh air. I felt like I was on my way to working for a larger company, for a larger transit agency, where I could take advantage of career growth and financial stability. My story is one of many challenging situations. Excuse me for my nervousness. I do apologize. I've been very reluctant in expressing how I feel in fear of retaliation from the district. But because I am a resilient woman, I must press forward with how COVID and being one of many essential workers have impacted me. I also must share with you how cutting the pay for drivers is a travesty and extremely disheartening for my fellow drivers and myself. In early 2013, my husband began facing health issues, and it was determined that soon he would be facing end-stage renal failure, which affects his kidneys. This was a complete shock for my family mentally and financially, especially with the high financial cost of dialysis. I have so many questions, and the process was overwhelming. I couldn't let that stop me from stepping up and taking on more responsibilities. Fast forward to 2019. My husband is still on dialysis. His immune system has gotten much weaker over the years, and I am gainfully employed with Golden Gate, trying my best to provide for my family. In 2019, I was attacked while on the job doing day off work. I never thought that I would be subjected to a vile assault. Verbally, emotionally, and physically, this has affected me. Just many questions went through over my mind. Did the passenger just spit on me? No back door. Will I encounter him again? What if he has communicable disease? If he has communicable disease.
Conclude your comment.
Okay, well, now it's 2020. We have to deal with the unknown virus for COVID-19 that is not even doctors have a complete understanding of. Drivers have many questions. What is it? Where did it come from?
Time is up. Thank you.
Just a reminder, as I go down the queue, you'll hear mute off. That is your cue to speak this morning. Mr. Tafaro, do you have a comment this morning? Mr. Peterson, do you have a comment this morning? Mr. Kenrick, do you have a comment this morning? Mr. Nickdow, do you have a comment this morning?
Hi.
Go ahead.
I'm a resident of the Richmond. Hi, can you still hear me?
Yes, could you state your name, please?
Hi, this is Susan McAndrews, a resident of the Seacliff Richmond neighborhood and prior president of the Seacliff Properties Association, and calling in support of the comments already made about understanding the distinction or discrepancy between the environmental impact statement and the public comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McAndrews.
Mr. Nickdow, do you have a comment this morning? When you hear mute off on your line, that's your cue to speak as a reminder. Mr. Carmona, do you have a comment this morning? Donna Young, do you have a comment this morning? Ms. Kamiko, do you have a comment this morning? I just want to be clear that you should be hearing mute off, and that is your cue to speak. Fabiola Sholin, do you have a comment this morning? Johnny Young, do you have a comment this morning? President Parr, at this time I've gone through the entire list of callers, and I'm not hearing that anybody else wishes to speak.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to express my appreciation to everyone who joined us on the call and shared their comments, and to the board who chose to extend the time so people could hear and be heard. I apologize to anyone who may have not had an opportunity to speak. If there are any folks out there that think that they've been missed somehow, I'd ask you please to submit your comments electronically to districtsecretary@goldengate.org, and the board will receive your comments. Mr. Mulligan, do you have any response to the public comments?
Yes, I do. I'll respond to first the bus operators, and then I'll turn it over to our chief engineer, Ms. Ava Bauer-Furbush, to respond to the comments regarding the noise emanating from the bridge. With respect to the comments from the bus operators, I want to start by acknowledging that the district is facing some extremely difficult financial challenges as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. With the onset of the pandemic, travel in the Golden Gate corridor has plummeted. Very, very few people are riding our buses and ferries, and bridge traffic is way down. So as a result of this, every week the district is spending several $million more than we collect in bridge tolls and transit fares. And this is not sustainable. Yesterday, the Finance Committee heard a presentation on the budget, and they approved sending it to you today. And that budget, if you adopt it, includes an $87 million hole that we need to address. So staff is working to reduce costs wherever we can within the challenges that we face. Our focus, right or wrong, and you can give me other direction if you wish after my comments, is that we are working very hard to protect all regular full-time employees so they continue to receive a paycheck and medical benefits for them and their families. We're trying to avoid and postpone as long as possible laying off our regular full-time employees. So we're trying to save money at the same time, and we're trying to match the service we put out there to the demand from our customers. So some of you were contacted last month by a representative from the Inland Boatmen's Union. This morning, our ferry manager, Jim Swindler, sent correspondence to the Inland Boatmen's Union and the Marine Engineers Beneficial Association, the union that represents our captains, with respect to the use of temporary, casual, part-time, and seasonal provisional employees. We are reducing or ceasing those wherever possible to save money. We're also reducing overtime wherever possible to save money. And that does not just affect bus operators. For example, here at the bridge, last summer and the summer before and the summer before, the bridge crews earned overtime when we staffed closures of the Caltrans Vista Point parking lot and their own parking lots. This summer now we've put in hard closures, so that overtime is no longer available to those employees. We have 25 collective bargaining agreements here at the bridge. The vast majority of our employees are at work. They are not working from home because the vast majority of our employees provide direct service to our customers on our buses, on our ferries, and here at the bridge. The board will have lots of difficult decisions ahead of them in the coming months, particularly if traffic does not rebound or if we do not receive additional federal funding. With respect to bus traffic, bus ridership is down 85%. If our customers do not want to ride our bus and the district is quickly going broke, then we need to reduce the amount of bus service that we put out on the street. In compliance with our collective bargaining agreement, we put out a July sign-up that changes the amount of bus service we put out. We are adding service on routes 30, 40, and 70 because we're seeing ridership returning on those routes. Those are not commute routes. Those are routes that either go across the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge or stop at the freeway bus pads in Marin and Sonoma counties connecting to San Francisco. However, the vast majority of our bus customers that previously rode our commute routes have stopped riding the bus. So in July, we're reducing the amount of commute service by about half. We were running buses that average 1 passenger per trip in and out of San Francisco. That is not economically sustainable. When the COVID-19 pandemic first hit, when businesses were pulled, most businesses said they thought it would last about 30 days, there'd be a hard shutdown and things would come back. Director Sobel yesterday at the Finance Committee asked Leslie Murphy with respect to that topic, because she had slide number 12 in her presentation that talked about that topic. Sadly, the economy has not bounced back. As we speak, the vast majority of office buildings in downtown San Francisco are closed. So we do not have commuters going in on our buses and ferries. Sporting events are not happening, so we do not have customers needing to ride a ferry to the Chase Center or to the Giants ballpark. There's no theaters, there's no concerts. The hotels are closed, so we do not have people flying in from all over the world like they did last summer and summers for decades, rent a bicycle, ride across the Sausalito, and then take one of our ferries back. So we are reducing service, but we, at this juncture, have still kept all of our regular full-time employees on our payroll so they receive medical benefits for them and their family and a paycheck. When we cut the commute service to better match the demand, what that does is it results in many drivers having shorter days. Historically, the nature of our commute service says that drivers work long days because of the commute service. And so the number of drivers that will be working 12 or 13-hour days will decrease in the July sign-up. So they will have less overtime. And that will reduce the size of the paychecks for those drivers that had those long days. But I can't emphasize enough that in the coming months, if we do not get additional federal funding, or if we do not see all those high-rises downtown opening up, that there will be difficult decisions coming to the board that will affect every facet of the district. But as of this juncture, several unions have contacted us with various concerns about things we have done to save money, but all those things have been focused on protecting our regular full-time employees. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions on this topic before we turn it over to Ms. Bauer to talk about the noise from the bridge.
Are there questions from directors just on the bus route topic?
May I ask a question? Director?
Yes, Director Frederick.
Just for clarification, what has been cut is the opportunity for longer days that the bus drivers could sign up for?
That is correct.
Thank you.
This is Director Terrio.
All right, Director Terrio.
So I've made the point to representatives from the ATU that really I hate to see anybody's pay cut, and that includes the unrepresented, and that unfortunately their discussion of cuts to them and to other employees at the district may bear out sooner than any of us would like to see. However, I do have one frustration in this, and that is in hearing that somehow talks in a formal way between the district and the union seem to have broken down as to what next possible steps there are. And I get a lot of he said and she said from both sides about this. Ultimately, I threw up my hands and go, all right, that really doesn't make any difference to me in the end. Why aren't they sitting down and talking? I've heard the term management rights come up in one context. That seems to me a sterile term when we're looking at so much obvious pain. And so I would strongly urge and hope that the board encourages me in this, that the two sides sit down, re-engage. I realize that there are terms that might be uncomfortable, like triggers and so on, but at least to talk about how we can provide, say, a structure for hope for these drivers as to how we emerge from this for them eventually. What things might mean what in terms of their getting back to hours that sustain them and their families. So I will make that point. Additionally, one small other thing, there's kind of a couple of the drivers in their emails had a what seems to me legitimate point about a sort of chicken and egg effect. When things do come back, if the buses aren't there for the passengers to use, then there may be, we may lose people in the long run. I don't know quite how to address that, but I would hope that would be a topic of discussion between the union and the district as well. And those are my comments. Thank you.
If I could reply, we look forward to sitting down with the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1575. Our staff meets with them continuously on a regular basis. They have regular crew meetings. We did go through a meet and confer process that Molly Cabin, our labor negotiator, documented contemporaneously. I think at the time, well, it doesn't matter, but we will gladly sit down with them. With respect to the chicken and egg, the July sign-up gives us the flexibility to address the chicken and egg problem. What we're doing is we're reducing half of the commute service. We're putting the drivers on the extra board where they'll receive a paycheck and benefits, and then we have the flexibility to assign them where there's need. So that if all of a sudden we start seeing people returning back on the Route 4s out of Mill Valley as opposed to the buses out of Santa Rosa, we can direct the resources there because they're not locked into a fixed service whether or not someone is riding it. So the purpose of the July sign-up is to give us the flexibility so that when a driver is ill and can't come to work, that we can make sure the trips that we tell our customers will be out there are out there, and so that we have adequate resources that are flexible to put wherever we see increases in ridership. If we start seeing overcrowding on trips, we can have a bus then go out and basically do a tandem and follow it to sweep and pick up additional riders. And so by having a large extra board, which does not guarantee overtime, we have the flexibility to be nimble and respond as people come back to work.
Thank you for that. I would still strongly urge that we not consider the meet and confer a dead letter, but resume that
yes.
And engage in a fairly formal way with the union. Thank you.
This is Dick. I have a question when you're...
Sure, go ahead, Director Grosswell.
And I should say this question would be applicable whether or not we were dealing with the ferry workers or anybody, so I know this is involving the ATU, but I would ask it if it were also involving the ferry workers because my concern is that they're going to be back to us in the next 2 months probably. But I sensed, I agree with Mike's comments. I think there is frustration that the union was so absolute in its position that several of the callers or emails referenced they didn't feel it was a fair meet and confer. But I'm just saying I support Mike's comments that hopefully you guys can meet and move forward. You know, the obvious other point they're making is that at this stage, as of July 1, they are going to be the only people at the district primarily hurting. I don't know if they're the only one, but they're the primary ones. And I was going to raise this in the budget discussion later today, obviously we're hurting and we're going to have to make some tough decisions, but I do think they raise a good issue. And I would say the same thing if this were the ferry workers. I think we as a board have to look at how fairly do we make these cuts. So if ferries are down 95% or if transit's down all this, we have to look to who else should be getting cuts, whether or not that's the deputy general manager in the bus, or other non-represented people in the bus division, in the same way with the ferry division. I think the goal here is to be fair. We can't just be lowering and making changes that impact the the people who are represented making less money in most cases. So, and we're about to prove a budget, and this change that apparently is going into effect July 1 is immediately going to make that budget not correct, and we're going to be asked to ratify it at a July or August board meeting. And I would have preferred that that be a part of an overall strategy discussion as to which I realize you're going to have to present to us, that $85 million deficit or whatever it is, which we're also going to have to pay. So I think they're raising the fairness issue about why, and then I'll raise it later in the budget, is it does seem like there is some unfairness in this, and we're going to have to address who else takes cuts over the next 2 months, so that if we are going to have to take cuts, that the lower level people and the bargaining units aren't the only ones feeling affected. So, thank you.
Thank you, Director Grosswell. Mr. Mulligan, do you have any other comments?
Yeah, you know, we are trying to save money. We're not guaranteeing overtime for folks. We're trying to put service out there where it's needed. So the policy question for the board is, do you want us to continue overtime payments to someone, whether it's a bus operator or a laborer at the bridge that was doing weekend work for closing parking lots when we no longer do that work? If we no longer have if no one wants to ride our bus or our ferry, is it appropriate for your management team to reduce overtime and to reduce the use of, you know, seasonal or casual employees? Because recognizing the severity of the financial challenge, things that save money that protect our regular full-time employees seem to me to be our first priority, so that I could avoid laying off our regular full-time employees. If we make decisions that guarantee overtime or that keep seasonal employees on, there's no baseball games, should I bring people out of the hiring hall that would have come this year and pay them? You know, if we do those things, we will be laying off more people and laying them off a lot sooner. And I just want you to understand that if my assumption was incorrect, I can certainly pivot and act differently. But at this juncture, we're trying to keep all our regular full-time people on board. We're trying to make sure everyone has a paycheck and medical benefits. And we are trying to reduce the use of casual, seasonal, and overtime. The bus division has the most overtime. The seasonal employee component, the most is at the ferry division. But there is overtime in other places that has also been cut, where the employees would very much enjoy the board deciding to pay them for those hours of overtime, even though they're not working them. I'm not recommending that, though, at this juncture.
And Mr. Mulligan, I think that underneath, this is Barb, I think underneath Director Grosswell's question was the question that you just answered, and that is, are the bus drivers the only ones who are having their overtime cuts, or are other departments taking similar cuts, and is overtime where the first cuts are taken? And I heard you say that, yes, other departments are limiting their overtime. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, Director Grosswell, but I think that's really what your question was. Thank you.
It's partly my comment. I think Dennis has indicated that some of the people on the bridge are going to lose some overtime that they got a year ago, although my sense is that that was a little more unique, whereas these bus drivers have been having these long runs for years, and they're used to that income level, and I think that's where they're feeling frustrated. And I believe they were willing to talk about understanding it might have to be done, but they wanted to have a little more notice a month or two later. That was, I think, what one of the persons who called me or emailed me said, is they wanted just to delay it a month or two, so it would still go into effect. And, of course, that would cost the district, I guess, apparently, for 1 or 2 months. I don't know how much money we're saving by implementing it July 1 versus August 1. So
I might add, not all drivers are taking a cut in pay. The drivers that had seniority that chose to work the really long days and bid a 12 or 13-hour day, a few of them can still bid a 12 or 13-hour day, but there's fewer of those shifts, so some are losing money. But like any shakeup, and that's the slang for these sign-ups, there's a handful of drivers that actually saw an increase in pay, and there's many drivers that saw no change in pay. So I just want to be very clear that not all bus drivers work a 12 or 13-hour day with all the overtime, but some did, and some of those, a fair chunk of those actually, is losing that overtime or seeing less overtime, and the impact of the bus operators is, you know, greater in terms of the number of employees affected than it is here at the bridge or elsewhere in the district.
All right, thank you. Are there other board members that have comments?
Madam President, this is Sabrina Hernandez.
Okay, Sabrina.
Thank you. I want to say that I appreciate and support the comments made by my colleagues Cherio and Groswell. I appreciate the efforts of the district to try to meet the financial challenges, and it's not easy work. But I was going to make one additional comment, a proposal, or maybe even a request from staff. And it seems, based on everything that all parties have been saying today, that perhaps it's time to look at this from a policy standpoint. I don't have any answers as to how to fix everything immediately, but one of the things that has come clear to me after reading all of the correspondence from the ATU members is that understanding that this is painful and unfair, that one group is bearing the brunt of this difficult financial situation. And perhaps we need to think creatively so that if and when the situation happens again, we will have a policy to go to understand ways in which we can try to alleviate the pain. Perhaps we should have some formula that immediately engages a process of fair distribution of the pain. Director Groswell mentioned that other salaries should be considered or might be considered in terms of helping to alleviate the stresses the financial stresses and burdens that are being experienced by the bus drivers. Perhaps there should be a theoretical 1% across the board, all divisions, when we reach a certain threshold of a certain grouping of folks in our employee groups that are experiencing a particular hardship. Just food for thought, and perhaps staff can put some of their minds together and come up with some ideas as to how we could deal with these kinds of crises in the future, so that not one group is feeling the full burden. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Director. We will follow up on that. We've already actually started working on a whole suite of options that would help solve the financial challenges that we confront, including shared sacrifice. And so the board will have lots of options presented to them. I cannot emphasize enough, though, that if we do not get additional federal monies, or if there isn't a wholesale reopening of the high-rises downtown San Francisco, that unfortunately all the options will be on the table, and you'll probably have to make some very, very difficult decisions that affect every facet of this organization.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Mulligan. I think that it's probably expedient to ask Chief Engineer Bauer if she would talk about the noise here rather than saving it for her presentation later, for her report, just because we may still have people on the line who had asked us about it. Ava, are you prepared to do that?
Certainly, Madam President.
Thank you.
So if I may, I'll start now.
Please.
Thank you. So in addition to the comments we heard today, in recent weeks, and especially after the event that happened on Friday, June the 5th, many people contacted the district about these new sounds that are emanating from the Golden Gate Bridge during high winds. Some people expressed curiosity about the source of the sound, and many expressed the displeasure with this new phenomenon and demanded that the district, like we heard today, take steps to prevent or reduce the sounds. So we observed that the sound is the result of sustained high winds coming from the northwest and passing at a specific angle through the recently installed new west sidewalk bridge railing. This new railing is part of the bridge wind retrofit project. The wind retrofit is necessary to ensure that the structural integrity of the bridge is not jeopardized during extreme sustained westerly winds of up to 100 miles an hour. The construction of the wind retrofit is especially important given the risk of increasing severe weather events due to climate change. The project is also essential for the completion of the suicide deterrent system, which will install netting along the full length of both sides of the bridge, and as such further increasing wind resistance. So as you know, the wind retrofit involves the replacement of existing bridge railing on the west sidewalk between the two main towers with new railing that has thin vertical plate pickets designed to allow more air to flow through them. The project also includes the installation of a wind fairing just below the sidewalk level on the outside of the bridge. As of today, approximately 75% of the new railing and 10% of the wind fairing has been installed. The original bridge railing that can still be seen on other parts of the bridge was designed with thick vertical pickets that obstruct passage of wind. This effect is particularly strong on the 4,200 feet long main span of the suspension bridge. The district engaged experts in aerodynamics to conduct multiple wind tunnel tests of a scale model of the bridge under high winds. These tests reveal how the bridge may react during high wind events after the suicide deterrent system is complete. The potential damaging consequences of leaving the original bridge railing in place are illustrated most vividly by the infamous collapse of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. The test also provided information on the level of transparency of the railing necessary to avoid the wind-caused damage to the bridge. The new bridge railing design was selected to achieve the dual goals of improved bridge aerodynamics and also architectural harmony with our cherished structure. Because the model used in the wind tunnel tests was a 1:20 scale model of the main span and was constructed of aluminum and plastic materials, not of steel as the bridge is, there were no indication that the new bridge railing would create the type and level of sound we experienced on June 5th. There were predictions that the wind retrofit may cause some new sounds on the bridge simply because more air is allowed to pass over the roadway. We have observed that there is a correlation between speed and direction of the wind and the intensity of new sound the bridge emanates. The district's weather station, which is located on the suspension bridge main span, is constantly recording wind speeds and directions. We have reached out to a consultant with expertise in aerodynamics and acoustics. We will retain this consultant to analyze the causes of the sound and to evaluate potential mitigation measures. We have a scheduled conference call with the consultant to finalize the scope of the studies this coming Monday. As the first step, in July, the consultant is planned to conduct sound camera measurements at the bridge. This will allow us to determine which elements of the bridge are engaged and what level of sound is generated at various wind speeds and directions. As a second step, the consultant will perform wind tunnel test of the full-scale model of the railing, the fairing, and other elements identified as contributing to the production of the sound. and we will explore how the resonance of these elements can be interrupted. And this will allow us to develop potential mitigation measures that we would then implement. So with this, I am available to answer any questions you may have for me.
Other questions from directors?
I had one question. This is Dick.
Go ahead, Director Grossel.
Ava, do we have any explanation as to why the environmental impact report that a couple of speakers referred to didn't predict this noise? Was it just a mistake? Is that what we think happened?
Well, to answer directly and indirectly, directly we had no idea that this would happen. And indirectly, I spoke personally with the experts in acoustics already, and also aerodynamics and so on. And until you actually build specific configuration using specific materials, actual materials, you cannot predict that this would happen. So here we are, and there is an indication that after the studies in the wind tunnel, we will be able to develop measures that will basically allow us to dump the sound.
Thank you very much. Are there other directors with questions or comments?
Yes, this is Sandra Fewer.
Yes, go ahead, Director Fewer.
Thank you very much. I just want to appreciate the Chief Engineer for addressing this issue. I have received a couple of dozen emails, correspondence through my office at the Board of Supervisors, and people are very concerned about this. But I just want to thank the Chief Engineer for taking steps to help mitigate this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director.
Absolutely. Are there other directors that wish to speak to this topic?
Madam President, Director Rabbit.
Yes, go ahead, Director Rabbit.
I appreciate the presentation and the explanation, and I know that we're going to do some more work. And you mentioned that this really happens when the wind hits just the right angle coming out of the northwest. And I asked this yesterday, and I think it's worth pursuing, just to kind of statistically let people know how often the worst case scenario occurs. And then, of course, I'm all for the dampening efforts that need to take place. And I would suppose that if it only occurs from the one distinct angle, that those efforts are going to be really towards addressing that particular wind direction. And I know speed has something to do with it as well. So I don't want the public to think that the bridge is singing each and every day, but just on these occurrences when the wind is hitting it just right, and then we're going to address that going forward. So I appreciate that that research being produced as well.
Certainly, Director Rabbit. So if I may address to this point, what we're doing in conjunction with hiring the consultant, we also recording the sound and to basically create the actual record of when the sound is generated and what level. We don't have a highly scientific instruments to measure it, but we trying to identify the noise as high, medium, or low, and then we can pull the data from our other weather station and correlate the time when the event happens, when the sound can be heard, with the speed and direction of the wind. So this will be added to the study done by the consultant, so we can narrow the condition under which the sound can be heard really away from the bridge.
All right, thank you again. I think I'll pull this in if there aren't any other directors that have comments. And I'd like to thank all the speakers. I hope some stayed on the line so that they could hear the highly unusual response to the public comments. But I appreciate Dennis and Eva for doing that. With that, this concludes the public comments to the board. Madam Secretary, would you please continue to the next agenda item?
Thank you. I'm going to continue to item number 5, which is to approve the consent calendar, including approval of minutes from the May 28th committees and the May 29th board meeting, as well as ratification of previous actions by the Auditor Controller. Consent calendar is located on page 5 to 36 of your board packet.
Are there any questions from board members on the consent calendar? Hearing none, First Vice President Michael Theriot, would you please move the item?
Yes, I move the consent calendar for approval.
Thank you. And Second Vice President Gerald Cochran, would you please second the item?
I'll second the item.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Thank you. We have a first from First Vice President Theriot and a second from Second Vice President Cochran, starting with Director Arnold for item number 5.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Barbarino.
Yes.
Yes. Director Brosel.
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston.
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan. Director Moylan. Absent Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriot.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes 16-0.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Madam Secretary, would you please introduce the next item?
Thanks. Item number 6A is report of the General Manager. Staff report can be found on page 37. Dennis Mulgren will present his report. Go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. My written report is before you, and I would like to mention a couple of things that are in the report and a couple of things that are not, that may be of interest. Since we last met, there have been 3 expressive activities in and around district property, so I want to acknowledge those. The district issued a permit for an expressive activity on Saturday, June 6th here at the bridge for a Black Lives Matter protest. Over 15,000 people showed up and participated in the event. I want to say kudos to all the event participants as well as to our staff, our bridge manager, Captain Rivera, all of our bridge operations team, as well as all of our partner agencies, the California Highway Patrol, Park Police, San Francisco Police Department, Southern Marin Fire, and many, many others. It was a very successful event. Anytime you get 15,000 people together, it is easy for people to get injured and hurt, and it was a safe event. I also want to specifically call out Captain Mota from the CHP for doing an exemplary job working with Captain Rivera and Steve Miller. Subsequent to that, there was a Black Lives Matter protest in Larkspur. The actual focus of the protest is not on our property, but on Sir Francis Drake Boulevard. There is a statue, an artwork piece of Sir Francis Drake. It is located on City of Larkspur property, just off our property. Our Larkspur Ferry Terminal parking lot is quite convenient for it. So some folks wanted to protest the name of Sir Francis Drake Boulevard and to see that they draw attention to it. Our Larkspur Ferry Terminal parking lot is adjacent to this, very close by, and no one is riding our ferries now, so they did not request a permit, but we let them use the parking lot. It was a well-coordinated event by hundreds of people. And then more recently, on Saturday, there was an event that did request a permit for us to use our Larkspur Ferry Terminal parking lot. It was a protest with respect to San Quentin and COVID-19. People are expressing concerns that because someone is in jail, they should not have a death sentence associated with COVID-19. There's hundreds of vehicles that were involved in it. They brought in porta potties. They used our parking area not just to stage the vehicles, but to hold a speech, a variety of speeches. And then they had the vehicles do a parade to the prison and back. It was an amazingly well-planned and executed event. The key thing for all 3 of those events is that your staff working with other agencies and the The promoters of the protests were successful in holding safe events where no one was injured. Next, I'd like to mention that the board has adopted a multi-year toll plan, a 5-year toll plan, and a 5-year transit fare plan. And pursuant to actions you took prior years, on July 1st, our tolls will increase and our transit fares will increase. This is part of our 5-year program. With respect to our transit fares, I'm pleased to announce that after much time, MTC is rolling out the means-based fare program. They have renamed it Clipper Start, and it'll roll out on July 15th. If someone signs up for Clipper Start on July 15th and they get a card, they'll be able to use it immediately. They're piggybacking on existing programs. If someone has an EBT card, if someone has other social services access, they're immediately qualified and they'll be given a Clipper card that does not distinguish them from others, but does allow them to receive a 50% discount while using all of our buses and ferries. With respect to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the district received the first tranche of CARES Act funding of $30.2 million on June 15th. And then MTC has a Blue Ribbon Transit Recovery Task Force that will be meeting over the next year. And among other things, it will be making a recommendation to the Commission regarding the second and final tranche of funding. I'm pleased to announce that I had the pleasure of serving on that task force along with Director David Rabbit. And they've had one meeting thus far, and they have a second meeting next Monday, where among other things, they'll review a staff recommendation for MTC for that second tranche of funding. With respect to COVID-19 items, last month I mentioned that we had renegotiated a lease for a small vendor that has basically a little coffee stand at the San Rafael Transit Center. Subsequent to that, we have another rental property where we've negotiated a rent deferment. The Marin Airporter leases property from the Bridge District at 1081 Anderson Drive. No one is flying, and so the business has dropped precipitously. So they reached out to us. And so what we have signed is a deferment of rent for 3 months. It's a one-time deferment. Then they'll have 12 months to pay that off. So they will ultimately pay the full amount. The risk to the district is that if they decide to close their business or shut it down, but we entered into negotiations with them, and they were quite pleased with the outcome, and I think it's fair and reasonable in light of the challenging times that we're experiencing. Then in my report, I have a mention of a mental health and well-being website that we launched, and at your convenience, you may want to look at that because a lot of our employees are availing themselves of it, and so we're really pleased that it's been embraced by our employees and is moving along so well. Now I will come to the part of my report where I really miss us not getting together because this is where the board recognizes employees for retirements and other acts of distinction. So I will very briefly acknowledge those recognitions, and I look forward to the day that we're all back together where we could have a meeting where we invite all these people in to have their due so you can meet what great people we have working for us. The first is our bus safety and training superintendent has retired. Her name was Cassidy Bennett. She retired after 23 years of service with the district on June 16th, and she originally started with us as a bus operator, and she then later became a transportation supervisor. Then she trained our bus operators as a student trainee until she was promoted to the safety and training superintendent position. We wish her well in her retirement. On June 25th, one of our bus operators, James Rinaldi, celebrated 30 years of service with the district. And so at a future meeting, you may have the pleasure of meeting with him. One of our customer relations assistants, James Marklinger, celebrated 20 years of service with the district on June 26th. And then for the Employee of the Month, I'm pleased to announce that one of our laborers in the streets and grounds crew, Everardo Lopez Gudino, was selected. It's a very prestigious award. He is an exemplary employee. He first joined the district as a temporary laborer and then later became a permanent laborer. And he's been with us in either a temporary or a permanent capacity for approximately almost 17 years. And he helps create the designs of the various logos for the planting that you see right below the roundhouse. And I can't emphasize how much joy those bring to people. He works with some of the other laborers in the design of those. As your general manager, I had the pleasure once of watching the bridge get shut down unannounced by the California Highway Patrol. And it was unannounced because the president of Israel came to visit the bridge. The limo with all traffic stopped went up onto as close as you can to the sidewalk by the roundhouse. But I went down and watched the security cameras as the car backed down. He had them stop so he could get out and have his picture taken in front of our planting, where we have our laborers plant the various designs there. And so it's something that's enjoyed by everybody. And Mr. Godino is one of the people that plays a role in that. That concludes my remarks. I'm available to answer any questions you may have on the General Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. Are there any additional questions for Mr. Mulligan?
I had one comment.
Oh,
Dick.
Go ahead, Dick.
Well, I think what you mentioned, the means-based fares, is that what you said is going to finally start up, Dennis?
Yeah, about time, July 15th.
Yeah, I mean, for not all the board members know, but I give Dennis and the staff a lot of credit on this. With not all the other Bay Area districts have done it, and Dennis and the staff took the lead on this, and I thank them for it. So.
Thank you, Director Grossball, for that shout-out. We appreciate that.
I'll have something to
Number 6. Okay.
Yeah, this is Director Terrio. 3 things, actually. First of all, it was inevitable that we were going to play a role in the Black Lives Matter protests, it seems to me, as a national symbol. I was hopeful that we would not do so gracelessly. It's hard for me to use positive terms in something that involves so much grief and outrage, but I'm grateful that we did not fulfill our role gracelessly. I'm grateful to staff and to our partner agencies on that. With regard to the CARES Act, one of the themes we've heard from both the deckhands and the bus drivers is some doubt about how that money has been employed. I would suggest it might be useful to give a close accounting to them of how it's been used so that we can forestall those questions or address those questions. And then finally, for Mr. Lopez Godino, knowing how Spanish names work, shouldn't if you use one name it be Lopez rather than Godino?
I defer to the employee of the month with respect to how he wishes to be addressed and self-identified.
Good
with respect to your comment on the CARES Act, we will, Shane and Joe have had conversations. We only received the money June 15th, but it's eligible for reimbursement for lost revenues or additional expenses associated with cleaning going back to the start of the pandemic. And so Joe will be giving an accounting of that to Mr. Shane Weinstein. I might add that while we got the money on June 15th, there was an objection raised by one of the unions, the ATU, when we applied for that. Fortunately, the DOL cast that aside. And we have allocated the money on a pro rata basis between bus and ferry based on the loss we're experiencing in those. Because one of the issues we get is each union thinks that the first $30.2 million is all theirs. And we've explained to them that we're sharing it among both bus and ferry. It's not meant for just all solely one. But we will give them a full accounting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now,
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Oh,
this is Sabrina.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Director Hernandez. I have a question for Dennis with regard to his statements on the CARES money. Dennis, you said that there's a second tranche or installment coming in August. Do we know how much that second installment will be?
MTC will act on it at their July meeting. Late last night, I received an email from Therese McMillan, the Executive Director of MTC, and on Monday, MTC staff is going to make a recommendation to the task force that Director Abbott and I are on. And if MTC were to act on that, then we would receive another about $21 million. But it's not done until it's done. They've had lots of options that they've discussed, lots of ways of deciding among the transit operators in the Bay Area how much should go to each operator. Fortunately, the recommendation that they put out last night is thus far for us, for a variety of circumstances, the most favorable we've seen of all the options. So we would see a total between the first and second tranches of about $51 million. As background, we spend about $12 to $13 million a month on transit. So that gives you a sense of how long $51 million lasts. So in all likelihood, we'll have spent all this money by the end of August or into early September, at which juncture we will be using our reserves to pay for whatever bus or ferry service we have out there, unless we see a marked increase in travel in the corridor.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for that information, and thank you to our colleague, Director Rabbit, for his participation in that effort. Thank you.
All right, now, Madam Secretary, would you introduce the next item, please?
Thank you. Item 6B is report of the attorney. Staff report from Mr. Manolius can be found on page 47 and on the line. Kim is here to present his report. Go ahead, Kim.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's safe and well. I'm happy to take any questions on the report that I provided, and also to let you know that there are 2 closed sessions listed on this agenda. We're only going to do the second one, which is the conference regarding the class actions, Saliani, Moore, Freeland, Jefferson, after the meeting, at the end of the regular business. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Manolius. Are there questions for Mr. Manolius? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you introduce the next item, please?
Thank you. Continuing on, we are at item number 6C, and that's report of the Chief Engineer. The report can be found on page 9 of the Building and Operating Committee packet, and Ava Bauer-Furbush is here to present her report. Ava, go ahead.
Thank you, Amoret. Madam President, members of the board, my written report is before you, and I would like to provide a short status of the suicide deterrent construction. So we have reached the point at which we have 200 net supports already installed on the bridge, and the work is ongoing on other parts of the project. The contractor is installing an access system on the north approach viaduct. This will allow them to start installation of the net supports at that location as well. In terms of the fabrication sites, every fabrication that we need for this project is ongoing. This also includes the fabrication of the net fabric that is done at Carl Stoll facilities near Chicago. So with this, I'm available to answer any questions the board may have for me.
All right, thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Bauer-Furbush on her report? All right, hearing none, I think we're ready to check and see if there's anyone on the line. We'll take the next committee reports, 8A, 8B, and 8C. We'll take them together for public comment. So Justine, if you would please check the line and see if there are any members of the public who'd like to speak to any of those items.
Thank you. She's pulling the line now.
Thank you.
All right, we have no callers on the line wishing to speak on items 8A, 8B, or 8C.
Thank you. Would you then move on to item 8?
Yes. I want to move on to item 8 since there's no other reports under item 7. Item number 8A is the report of the Building and Operating Committee meeting of Thursday, June 25th, 2020. Summary of recommendations for this meeting can be found on page 51 of your packet.
Thank you. Director Theriault, would you please begin your comments?
Sure, and at the outset for Director Sears' benefits, I'll say that she won't be able to experience it from the row she's sitting in, but my B's and P's will be Shakespearean. The Building and Operating Committee met yesterday and is recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8A1 to execute Professional Services Agreement number 2019 F058, Larkspur Ferry Service and Parking Expansion Environmental Clearance and Preliminary Design Study, as detailed in the staff report, with Jacobs Engineering Group, Incorporated of San Francisco, California, in the amount of $2,514,024. Establish a 10% contingency in the amount of $251,402, and authorize the general manager to approve amendments to the agreement up to the contingency amount, and authorize a budget increase in the amount of $1,898,426 in the fiscal year 1920 Ferry Division capital budget as concurred with by the Finance Auditing Committee, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is Director Garbarino still online?
Yes, I am.
Would you please second the item?
Absolutely, I second that item.
Thank you. And before we take our vote, are there any board members who have a question? We had a robust discussion on those yesterday. So hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. Starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Yes. Director Grosball.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston.
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan. Director Moylan absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
Yes. And President Farr.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 15-0.
Thank you. Director Theriault, do you have anything further to report?
That's all for this one.
All right. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item?
Item 8B is the report of the Finance Auditing Committee meeting of Thursday, June 25th. The summary of recommendations for this meeting can be found on page 53 of your packet.
All right. Thank you, Director Sobel.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We are going to be bringing forward 7 items, and item 7 is the approval of the proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 operating and capital budget. And I know that Director Grosball will probably want to chat during that piece of it, but leading up to it, I will bring the following forward. So the Finance Auditing Committee met yesterday and is recommending authorization of board agenda item number 8B1 to authorize operating budget transfers in the amount of $1,899,000 or 0.8% of the total fiscal year 1920 operating budget expenses as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please? Director Fredericks?
Second.
Thank you. Before we take our vote, are there board members who have a question on this item? Director Grosball, are you still wanting to speak to this item? Evidently not. All right, with that, are there any other board member comments, questions? All right, Madam Chair, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Aye. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Aye. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston.
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan. Absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes 15-0.
Thank you. Director Sobel, would you please continue with your report?
Yes, Madam President. The Finance Auditing Committee is recommending the authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8B2 to authorize the General Manager or his designee to execute for and on behalf of the District any documents necessary relative to the fiscal year 2021 State of Good Repair Program and approve submission of a list of fiscal year 2021 proposed projects and future lists of proposed projects to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. Director Cochran, could you please second this item?
I'll second the item.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Are there any board members who have a question? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Once again, starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Yes. Director Grossbowl.
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston.
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan. Absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 15-0.
Thank you. Director Sobel, would you please continue?
Yes. The Finance Auditing Committee is recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8B3 to authorize the General Manager to execute the Second Amendment relative to Professional Services Agreement number 2018 D059, the Insurance Advisor and Brokerage Service, with USI Insurance Services of San Francisco, California, to extend the agreement for an additional 1-year term with 2 additional 1-year options in a total not to exceed amount of $222,872 for the district's marine and property insurance programs effective November 1, 2020, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
I have a motion. Director Grossbowl, would you please second the item?
Second.
Thank you. Before we take a vote, are there any board members who have a question on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Yes. Director Grossbowl.
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston.
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan. Absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 15-0.
Thank you. Director Sobel, would you please continue?
Yes, Madam President, the Finance Auditing Committee parade moves on by recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8B4 to approve renewal of the district's liability insurance program in the total amount of $2,211,728 and the renewal of the property insurance program in the total amount of $597,199 effective July 1, 2020, as detailed in the staff report, with the further understanding that the district will continue funding the Restricted Bridge Self-Insurance Reserve Fund with an investment of $1,300,000, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. Director Hill, would you please second the item? Director. All right. If Director Hill's not there, do I have a director that will second the item?
Second.
Was I invited? Never mind.
All right. Thank you very much. Before we take our vote, are there any board members who have a question on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Yes. Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Yes. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan.
Yes.
There we go. Thank you, Director Moylan. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Yes.
Yes. The motion passes 16-0.
Thank you. Director Sobel, do you have another item?
Oh, sure, Madam President. The Finance
You're not
Auditing
up for them
Committee.
yet, huh? Yeah,
No.
this is like a long meeting.
Yes, actually it was a very long meeting, and a lot of, as I said yesterday, a lot of heavy lifting. So much appreciation goes out to the Finance Auditing Committee, which is now recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8B5 to authorize execution of a professional services agreement relative to request for proposals number 2020-D014, the third-party administrator for public liability, fleet claims investigation, and adjustment services with George Hills Company, Incorporated of Rancho Cordova, California, in the amount of $1,095,000 for a 3-year term with 2 additional 1-year options as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
I have a motion on the item. Director Yee, would you please second the item?
Second.
Thank you. Before we take our vote, are there any board members who have a question on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Well, starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Yes. Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill.
Aye.
Aye. Director Maston.
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan.
Yes.
Yes. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes 16-0.
Thank you. Director Sobel, please continue.
Will do. The Finance Auditing Committee is recommending the authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8B6 to authorize execution of the Second Amendment to the Parking Services Agreement with Park Mobile USA Incorporated and Park Mobile Group BV relative to contract number 2014 FT19, collection of parking fees at Larkspur Ferry Terminal, in the not-to-exceed amount of $100,000 for maintenance and administration of the existing system for the collection of parking fees at Larkspur Ferry Terminal through December 31st, 2021, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. Director Fredericks, would you please second the item? Do I have a second from another director, please?
Second. Belforte will second.
Thank you, Belforte. Before we take our vote, are there any board members who have a question? Hearing none. Now, did I just talk over someone? Was there a question on that one? Okay. Madam Secretary,
I think it was Director. No problem. That was Director Cochran, squeaky chair.
Okay, thank you. Would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you. Director Arnold? Absent. Director Belforte?
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer?
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick?
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino?
Yes.
Yes. Director Grosboll?
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez?
Aye.
Thank you, Director Hernandez. Director Hill?
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston?
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan?
Yes.
Yes. Director Rabbit? Director Rabbit?
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. Director Sears?
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel?
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee?
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriot?
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes 16-0.
Thank you very much. Director Sobel, do you have another item?
I do. I have the last item to present, and this is will be the approval of the adoption of the operating and capital budgets. But I wanted to preface it by saying that yesterday Finance Auditing spent a great deal of time talking about the budget, the ramifications of COVID, how dire in many respects the budget is. We are seeing unprecedented for the Bridge District a loss of revenue in the bus arena, in the ferry arena, and people crossing the bridge. We realize that the budget is going to be a flexible document more than in past years because we just have so much uncertainty around revenue. And the discussions we had earlier tie right into this, about whether we can generate riders and that sort of thing, because riders generate money and cars going over the bridge generate money. So we had a lot of discussion about this yesterday, and I want to particularly call out Joe Wire and his and his staff for working with what is a very fluid document at this point in a very fluid situation. So with that, Madam President, the Finance Auditing Committee is recommending authorization of a board agenda item, which is 8B7, which is to approve adoption of the fiscal year 2021 operating and capital budgets, which incorporates a recently ratified contract with the Amalgamated Transit Union, a capital contribution amount of $21 million, and approve all other related actions as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you for that. Director Cochran, could you please second the item?
I'll second that item.
Thank you. And I appreciate, Director Sobel, your analysis of yesterday. It really was quite a budget discussion. And someone had, and I'm just going to mention this in passing, but someone had mentioned the fact that we needed to sit down and talk, and I know that we're overdue on a strategic plan, which generally helps drive the budget. I think I sent a note out to folks a couple months ago that the timing is really poor. We have a lot of unknowns, and it's hard to have a planning meeting online. So the budget will be in flux, and some of it's our fault and some of it isn't, but I appreciate your comments. Before we take the vote, are there any other board members who have a question? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please?
I did have a comment. I'm sorry, I did have a comment.
Sure, go ahead, Director Grossfeld.
Well, first, I do think we should acknowledge, I believe that this budget provides for no increases for the officers and the other non-represented people. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And we haven't done that in quite a few years. And, you know, I voiced these concerns yesterday and earlier today, is that we are about to pass a budget which we're, you know, within a month, by the next meeting, that budget is not going to be accurate. This budget has the same amount of employees. It includes the 3% increase for ATU. It doesn't take into any consideration all that loss of overtime that those drivers are going to lose in July, apparently. And it doesn't take into consideration that we're going to be having to deal with the ferry people. And I assume that we're going to be getting information at the July and August meetings on that. And but I guess I would, and I think you indicated yesterday, but also we would, I think it'd be good, I think you're going to come back with a report on unfilled positions and those that are critical for the next meeting, just so we know how many positions we might be not filling, and I know some of them are going to be critical and you'll have to fill them. I also would be interested if we could have for the next meeting a breakdown as to how much money the district will have saved by not paying that overtime, and both for the bridge workers that you referenced as well as the bus drivers. And I realize you may not have a full month in by that time, but whatever information, it would be helpful to know how much are we really saving, and also that means how much they're losing. And as much information as possible as you can provide on what you're proposing as far as an overall strategy as cuts. I do realize there's no easy decisions here. So but anyway, that's all I have for now.
If I could respond, our plan is to come back every month and report on bridge traffic, transit ridership. We'll report on the unfilled positions. Just so the board knows, I am filling patrol officer positions because they save lives on the sidewalks. I'm filling provisional bus servicer positions because we've greatly enhanced the cleaning effort we have on our buses. And so we have a lot of provisional, which are temporary employees on board. I believe we have 9, and we're going to be bringing 5 more on to replace some others that have left us. So we are filling positions like that and grant-funded positions, and I'm sitting on all others. But we'll bring a detailed report on vacancies. We'll bring a detailed report on the trends we're seeing. If bridge traffic bounces back faster, the size of the cuts will be much less. If bridge traffic nosedives again because our shelter-in-place orders are reinstating some of the more extreme restrictions that have been eased, then it could go the other way. But we will come back monthly, and in the coming months we'll have a series of difficult decisions. I think July is too soon to do the most difficult ones. I think we need to see whether Congress acts on the HEROES Act. The House passed a bill that would provide additional funding, and if Congress is going to act, they would do that so that money rolls out, probably, to be candid, before the election. And so I think we want to see how July plays out in Congress, because if Congress authorizes additional money, it would allow us to postpone longer having some of those difficult decisions, the most difficult ones. And ideally, in a perfect world, Congress would give us enough money so that we defer it long enough until traffic does come back. But we will be coming back monthly on a variety of options and steps and information as we move forward.
All right, thank you.
Madam President, if I may add, that, you know, in past years we've been approving budgets without these situations occurring like this year with COVID, and so we had, I'll say, very good certainty over what the budget would look like, what the revenue would look like. This year, everything is out the window. I think the key for your Finance Auditing Committee, for the full board, for staff, is excellent communication. We need to really be very clear. I think it was the ATU president earlier who said something about communication. I agree with him. I think it has to be very clear what we're talking about with respect to, as an example, what Dick talked about, and that is overtime. We need to know what those numbers are, because overtime is different than regular pay. and we need to know that if we're reducing overtime, what are the savings that accrue because of that? But that's just one example. It's across the board. There was some discussion yesterday of perhaps commingling money from the capital projects with the other side of the ledger, and my own view of that is that's not appropriate, and I think often in government we find that money is awfully fungible, and so money gets moved around out of buckets, and the people that don't see all of that are often the taxpayers, or in our case, the toll payers, and that is a group of people we haven't talked about today. The people that are carrying the freight for the Golden Gate Bridge District are the toll payers, the people who ride the buses and the ferries, and certainly to some extent our federal and state partners and regional partners who help fund the bridge. But we have a responsibility to everybody to be as open as we can be, to talk about apples to apples, and view this as an unprecedented crisis, and so to pay much more attention, if I may say, to it than we have in the past. And as the Finance Auditing Chair, I'll be doing that each and every month, trying to really lay this out so that the toll payers, the rate payers, and everybody else, and the board and committee members can see very clearly the trail of money here. With that, Madam President, I'm done with my statement.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Thank you, Director Sobel. If there are no other comments, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll for votes?
Thank you. Director Arnold? Absent. Director Belforte?
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer?
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick?
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino?
Yes.
Yes. Director Grosboll?
No.
No. Director Hernandez?
No.
No. Director Hill?
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston?
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan?
Yes.
Yes. Director Rabbit?
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears?
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel?
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee?
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Tirio?
No.
No. President Parr?
Yes.
Yes. The motion passes 13-3.
Thank you very much.
Madam President?
Yes, Director Sobel.
Might I ask if one of the persons who voted no would explain the no so that we have clarity moving forward?
Certainly. Which of you would like to do that? Director Grossfeld, you were the one that...
I guess I'm troubled by the fact that we're passing a budget and decisions have already been made and about to be implemented that are impacting our workers, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. We're essentially going to be asked to ratify that rather than advancing in an approval. I assume we're going to be asked to deal with the ferry folks, hopefully in advance, but in essence, we're going to be asked to ratify a decision that the general manager has already told us he's going to make. But and I'm just troubled by the fact that we don't have, I realize it's a tough time, but we don't have a strategy as dealing with other people who else is going to lose revenue. And I mentioned that earlier in the discussion, so I won't repeat it. So it was a couple of those factors.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Director
This is Director Hernandez.
Sure. I was just going to ask if you'd be comfortable sharing your no vote.
This is Director Hernandez, and I echo the comments just shared by my colleague, Director Grosboll. Thank you.
How about you, Director Tirio? Would you care to share?
I have nothing to add to those two. I'd like to see an engagement on a structure for hope for the bus drivers and others.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you would share that with us. All right.
I do too, Madam President.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you for asking for that, Director Sobel. Madam Secretary, would you please move us to the next item?
Thank you. That concludes the report of the Finance Auditing Committee, and we're going to move on to item 8C, which is the report of the Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee meeting that happened this morning. The corrected summary of recommendations for this meeting was sent to the board members yesterday by email and is posted on the website. Chair Arnold had to leave our call today, and now we have Vice Chair Theriault that's going to step in and help us cover.
Thank you. Director Theriault?
Yes, the Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee met this morning and is recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item number 8C1 to approve the actions as detailed in the staff report relating to a transition to the CalPERS health system for non-represented administrative employees and district officers, effective January 1st, 2021, as follows. 1, approve transition of district-provided health care coverage for non-represented employees and retirees to CalPERS, pending adoption of CalPERS resolutions. 2, approve establishment of a health reimbursement arrangement plan for individuals enrolled in specified CalPERS medical plans. And 3, approve updates to the district's human resources guide and policies as appropriate, and I so move.
Do I have a second, please?
Second, Belforte.
All right, thank you. Are there any board members who would like to comment on this or have a question? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please do a roll call vote?
Thank you. Director Arnold? Absent. Director Belforte?
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer?
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick?
Aye.
Aye. Director Garbarino?
Aye.
Aye. Director Grosboll?
Aye.
Aye. Director Hernandez?
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill?
Yes.
Yes. Director Meston?
Aye.
Aye. Director Moylan?
Aye.
Aye. Director Rabbit?
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears?
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel?
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee?
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault?
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr?
Yes.
Yes. The motion passes 16-0.
Thank you very much. Director Theriault, does the Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee have anything else to report?
We have another item. The Rules,
Thank
Policy,
you.
and Industrial Relations Committee recommends that the board adopt agenda item number 8C2 to execute professional services agreements with the following firms. We'll get some of these pronunciations wrong, I think. 1, Apple One Employment Services. 2, DiscWriter Inc. 3, Infogenie Inc. 4, Soft HQ Inc. And 5, Wohlberg Michelson Personnel Service Inc. Relative to request for proposals number 2020-D015, on-call temporary staffing services for a 3-year term in the amount not to exceed $3.25 million, with 2 additional 1-year option terms in a total not to exceed amount of $1,100,000 each year, to be exercised at the general manager's discretion as detailed in the staff report. I again so move.
Thank you. I have a motion. May I have a second, please?
I'll second. Hill.
Thank you. Before we take the vote, are there any board members who have a question on this item? Hearing none, Madam Secretary.
Madam President, may I be recognized? This is Director Hernandez.
Of course.
Thank you, Madam
Director
President.
Hernandez. Sorry for the step over.
No, it's what we got right now. So
it's
no worries.
awkward, isn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
go
It is.
ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to. I've not been taking the tally of who participated in the meeting and who is now carried over to the board. But for the members of the board who were not able to participate in the meeting, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware and for the record to show that during the meeting there was some discussion with regard to the criterion for awarding these contracts, and several individuals were concerned or expressed had questions about whether or not the firms that were being awarded were local firms, were minority-owned, were local business enterprises, minority-owned, or women-owned. And it turns out that none of these, I think, agencies that we're awarding this contract to were filled any of those categories. There was one SBE involved, a small business enterprise. But I think it brings up a larger topic in terms of, and it is just a small contract, but it brings up a larger topic that I believe will be dealt with in the future as to what our values are in terms of the contracts that we award and the agencies that we award them to. Thank you very much for allowing me to make that comment, Madam President.
Thank you for that reminder. Are there other comments, please? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll for a vote?
Starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Yes. Director Grossball.
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill.
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston.
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan.
Yes.
Yes. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears.
Yes.
Yes. Director Sobel.
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee.
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 16-0.
Thank you. Director Tirio, do you have any additional items?
Except for apologies to Director Arnold, who is inimitable, for any imperfections in my fulfilling her role here. I have nothing further to report.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please continue to the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 10, since I have no addresses to the board under item number 9. Item 10A is the discussion and possible action to terminate the suspension of board procedural rules and policies for COVID-19 related emergency actions. A brief staff report is located on page 69, and Dennis Mulligan is here to present his report.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
President.
Mulligan. Would you please proceed?
Sure. Madam President, members of the board, the item before you is something to have you consider that you take back the suspension authority that you gave me with respect to the rules of the board. With the ongoing pandemic, we've made a variety of different changes in reaction to the situation. And so you delegated authority to me, and I report out what I've done every month. And this item has for you to consider whether or not you wish to consider giving me that delegated authority while we continue to navigate this pandemic.
All right, thank you. Are there any board members who have a question on this item for Mr. Mulligan?
Madam President, I don't have a question. I have a motion, and that is to continue consideration of this item to special order of business at the next board meeting, but I will pull that motion back once again if there are board members who do have questions or comments.
Thank you, Director Tirio. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, I believe that was Director Cochran.
Yes.
Are there any other board member comments? Hearing none, Madam President, Madam Secretary, would you please take a roll call vote on that one?
Okay, we're going to do a quick pause to see if there's any public comment on this item. So give me 1 second before I do that roll call vote.
Thank you.
We have no speakers on this item.
All right, in that case,
I'll now
will you
move.
conduct the roll call vote?
Thank you. I will do the roll call vote starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Belforte.
Yes.
Yes. Director Fewer.
Aye.
Aye. Director Frederick.
Yes.
Yes. Director Garbarino? Yes. Director Grosval?
Yes.
Yes. Director Hernandez?
Aye.
Aye. Director Hill?
Yes.
Yes. Director Maston?
Yes.
Yes. Director Moylan?
Yes.
Yes. Director Rabbit?
Aye.
Aye. Director Sears? Yes. Yes. Director Sobel?
Aye.
Aye. Director Yee?
Aye.
Aye. Second Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Theriault?
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes 16-0.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to item 11, which is unfinished business, which is Attorney Manolius' closed session report, I have to thank you all for your patience today. It's been a long meeting. We'll be placing the public on hold and we'll reconnect the call after closed session. Mr. Manolius, would you please take us into closed session?
Yes, President Parr, thanks very much. At this time, the board will go into closed session under Government Code 54956.9A for a discussion on existing litigation, specifically the class action cases named Saliani, Moore, Freeland Jefferson versus Golden Gate Bridge, and BATA.
Thank you for your patience while we are in closed session. We will rejoin as soon as the meeting is back in open session. Please remember to keep your phones on mute. Thank you.
We're back in open session.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manolius, for your report. That takes us to item 12, and I'd like to make an announcement under new business. I'm creating an... Yes.
I'm sorry, I need to bring us back out officially.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. No worries.
It was Amrit that brought us out, wasn't it?
She did it technologically.
Yeah, got it.
So the board met under Government Code 54956.9A on existing litigation as referenced in the agenda, and there's nothing to report.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now I'll start with item 12, and I'd like to make an announcement under new business. I'd like to create an advisory committee. As yet, it doesn't have a name. It would be focused on starting the conversation about how we react and frame our organization in light of the newly heightened world of respect and response. And I thank Director Hernandez for the suggestion. Director Hernandez, would you like to say a few words about your suggestion, what prompted it, what you would hope we learn?
Thank you very much, Madam President. I know it's been a long day today. It's been a long meeting. There's been a lot of emotion that's crossed the table. And the format that we're meeting in today makes things even a little more difficult. It's, I long for the days when we can sit across the table and see each other's faces and put a hand on the shoulder and share support during difficult times like these. So I had some more lengthy comments that I had prepared, but I'm going to try to pare them down. I wanted to say at this time, we're all kind of shaped by environment that we grew up in, people that we recognize as our models and mentors, and events that take place in our lives. And when I was a child, my first dramatic moment in life where I thought everything was going to be different from then on was the death of Judy Garland. She was my idol from The Wizard of Oz. She was this perky, smart, talented woman who was the leader of the gang, the person who inspired everyone, the person who exposed wrongs. Moving on from that, of course, there were difficult times for all of us. We can all remember the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, the early days of the women's movement. In San Francisco here, we had the murders of milk and musconi. That happened during my teenage years, very critical in my development, in my view. Followed immediately, almost immediately, by the massacre at Guyana, at the Jim Jones compound. The AIDS crisis followed immediately after that, with certainly touched all of us. Many of the young men that I went to high school with fell as a result of that crisis. And then other events like 9/11 affect us like never before. Certainly now we're dealing with COVID. How did that ever happen? Did we anticipate it? What's happening now in terms of the loss of not just lives, but incomes, ways of life, ways that we're being asked to change and move and modify who we are and what we do based on this horrible, horrible pandemic. And then, of course, on May 25th, George Floyd was killed. So I want to say thank you to our president, President Parr, for establishing this new committee, this new advisory committee. America has experienced a moment of national anguish. We're all grieving the loss of George Floyd and so many others that were killed by police brutality and as a result of racial injustice. People across the country are speaking up, standing up, peacefully protesting, and are transforming this moment, which is so painful and full of anguish, into a movement for national action and a demand to end systemic injustices. So again, I thank our president for establishing this committee to address some of these issues within our organization. I feel it's appropriate for us as a board and us as an organization to put forth a formal resolution condemning the killing of George Floyd. And I'm so happy, again, that the president decided to establish this committee because, you know, it's one thing to send a Twitter message or share something on Facebook, but it's another thing to stand back and take action of some sort. Do some reflecting. Look at what's happening internally and decide to maybe face some things that are not correct at least, and or maybe ugly at worst. But as a board, I think we have a responsibility to do that, and I'm so glad. I can't thank you enough, President Parr, for being willing to challenge the district to do this hard work. We have so many ways in which the district is doing the right things, but we are all sort of the product, again, of our views that have been developed over our lives and the things that we've experienced, and again, the people that we've held as models. But there may be some blind spots. Not intentional, not malicious, but there just may be some blind spots. And if the district is going to move forward and claim to be exceptional, claim to be the best, then we have to do this work. So I'll be your first volunteer, President Parr.
Good.
And I hope that others will join, and I look forward to great discussion, hard work, but a commitment to make us the best that we can be. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Ms. Yee, I want to thank the President also, Parr, for putting this forth, and also for Board Member Hernandez to raise this issue and to push forward. I think reflecting is good. I think it's going to be tough discussions, but it's necessary.
I agree, and I think all of us have sort of taken a look inward You know, we always want someone else to solve the problem, and we kind of get blind to our own. And I appreciate that it was brought up. There's some words that were said today that maybe could come up under what we're going to name it, like organizational reflections, you know, hard conversations, or whatever it is. So if any of you are interested in joining this, please let me know, or let Amarette know. I think it'll be, I think Sabrina said it, I think it'll be exciting. I think it'll be hard. I think people will reflect on things that they didn't know they needed to. And that's sort of my hope as the president, that not that we have any glaring errors, but you know, you never know. We are who we are. So anyway, thank you for that, Director Hernandez and Director Yu. Any other comments on that?
This is Alice Frederick.
Yes. Thank you, Director Frederick.
I just want to jump forward in support of this and also offer, if there is a slot, volunteer. I would be especially honored to work with Director Hernandez and anyone else who is interested.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, you'll hear more about that. The next item, we're almost done here, is item 13. It's communications. As you know, we have been inundated with communications.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Yes.
This is Sabrina.
Yes.
Madam President, thank you for recognizing me again. There was, I didn't want it to be overlooked, and again, I appreciate the enthusiasm of colleagues to support and be a part of this new committee. But I did not want it to be lost that I feel it's important for our organization to put forth a formal resolution stating our views on condemning the killing of George Floyd. In the past, I know we've not put forth many resolutions, and I'm not even exactly sure of what the process to do that is. But I just wanted to repeat my request that that we put forth a resolution and that we move forward with whatever procedural activities are required in order to have that happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, I
if it's
did
a
overlook
pleasure,
that. Go ahead, Dennis.
I was going to say, if it's a pleasure of the board, staff will prepare a resolution for your next meeting.
All right, and then bring it back.
Yes.
Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you, Madam President, and
Yes.
Dennis.
All right, so the last item is communications. As I said, we've had lots of them this year, or this month. I appreciate the fact that both Dennis and Eva would take a little extra time to respond. I hope people stayed on the line and listened. So we've actually reached the end of the agenda, and there are no further items to be presented. Thank you to everyone who joined us today for this long, important meeting. And today we are adjourning in honor and remembrance of George Floyd. Please join me in a moment of silence. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors. The time is approximately 12:39. Thank you all.